looking for something. A new way, a new understanding, a connection, some comfort. You've got questions, and Light on Living puts the spotlight on all the answers so you can shine. Lift and lighten the load of life's challenges and learn simple and easy ways to live a healthy, happy life. You'll gain insight and start to see things in a new way that motivates you. You're invited to hear new, see different, and feel more as Lisa shines the light on living.
Everyone, welcome to Light on Living. I'm your host, Lisa Berry, and as always, we're here, all of us, every time I have a guest, we're here to give you reasons to feel better. And we know we can feel better because we don't have to feel perfect. We don't have to be from like A to Z. We can just go A, B, C, D and just feel a little better. And one thing that I know, it's a very personal thing here too, and everybody, because we all do it, sometimes what stops us from shining, from feeling better, is that, we wish we could turn back time. I'm not just talking about regrets. I'm saying that, sometimes situations happen or we react a certain way or we feel a certain way and we just can't snap out of it. We can't remove our thoughts and our connection and change our perspective. And that really blocks us from being able to step into that light. So I thought, how cool would it be if we could just shift our perspectives, but how the heck do we do that? So I came across one of my awesome colleagues and friends who I'm going to share about her in a minute, but I want to say why I just absolutely knew I had to have this specific person on. This is actually somebody in my life who when I'm struggling, I'm like, how the heck am I going to see this in a good way? Like, I know I have hope and faith and belief that I can look at this horrible situation in a way, but I can't do it. So I reached out to this lovely lady. So I'd like to first of all introduce you to Charise Morris and let everybody know that she is an international best-selling author. She's a content editor, and goodness, has she ever helped me? She's an Usui Reiki Master, a self-mastery coach, and a student of alternative healing modalities. She really she loves crystals and plants and herbs, and she just really takes those moments that are dark in her life, and you can read about them in her books and her chapters, and she takes them and she kind of switches them. She twists them around, and I love how she does this. She really changed the perspective on things, and it literally changes her life, and we're going to talk about how. So first of all, welcome, Charise Morris.
Hello. That was such a nice welcome. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. I mean, over the years, you've literally, I'm probably the queen of making something positive and fun and happy, but you are the one where I'm really stuck and I go, this one doesn't have a happy ending. And you're like, aha, here it is.
I always try. And that's really, really flattering. Thank you for that compliment, because you are probably the most positive person that I have met in my entire life. So that is a very high compliment coming from you.
Oh, well, thank you. And all the listeners right now, I mean, everybody has those times in their lives, and we're going to be talking about journaling, and I'll tell everybody why, because today's topic, show, is called Proofreading Your Perspective. And first of all, when you hear that, Charise, when you say that, because you're an editor, you actually can't help it. I think you are just you're wired in to editing things and checking them over. So when you hear if you were to explain to somebody what that means, to proofread your perspective, what comes up for you?
Okay, so when I hear that, for me, it's we all have made mistakes, and we all have in our minds we've entered it into our minds in a certain way, and a lot of the times, at least in my life, it seems to be negatively, whether it's a negative phrase, I always do something and it's always bad, or I never do that. I can never do that for myself. And these things, they're so negative. And I think that when you are looking back, sorry about that.
I know when we're reading our journals, some people don't always go back and look at their journal entries. I'm thinking right now, of all the negative entries that we all must have in our journals. But do we, first of all, I guess it's helpful not just to reread them and relive that emotion, but to read them and proofread them with a positive, there's a lot of P's, and proofread them with a positive experience.
Yeah, no, and you're right. You don't want to keep reliving something, and that can be part of the struggle there in and of itself, because you may want to journal, and you may want to, like, you want to get these things out of your mind, but sometimes you get stuck because you didn't handle it the way that you wanted to. So when you proofread your journal entries, you are kind of reliving them, but it's to put a positive spin on why something happened the way that it happens. And it's not always about judgment. That's not what it is about at all. It's about trying to free yourself from the judgment you have made on why you acted the way you acted.
Ooh, okay, wait a second. The goal or the intention or something what you'd want would be to free yourself from the judgments you've made about your actions or yourself. Oh my gosh, now I forget the end of that part. But that was the goal. Free yourself from the judgments you made. I like that. That's so helpful.
Yeah, and it's about self-forgiveness on a lot of levels as well, because I know if I've made a really horrible mistake, we're all imperfect, I feel stupid. I feel, I can't believe I did that. I want to forgive myself. I want to look at it and understand even why I made the choices that I made. And not so that I don't repeat it, although that's nice. You don't want to keep repeating your mistakes. But just so you can understand and you can grow and you can learn.
I love that you said that. Who knows? I listened to so many things, read so many things. I can't remember which it was, but it came to my awareness that it's about reflecting. That's what we're doing. We're not scrutinizing. We're not like proofreading, but we're reflecting on what happened so that we can grow from it. And I love, you say forgiveness. Can you okay, let's dive into forgiveness, because proofreading with a forgiveness intention sounds really cool, to be honest.
Okay, so forgiveness is such a huge topic, and it's really hard. Like, it's so much easier to forgive somebody else, like whether it's a loved one or a friend or even a stranger. Like, if you happen to be in an incident with a stranger, like a car accident, oh my gosh, it was an accident, I'm so sorry. You know what? I forgive you. It wasn't on purpose. But when you make a mistake yourself, I find that there's a lot of self-judgment there, and it's hard to move past that. And it can be really, really freeing when you look at your past mistakes from a compassionate point of view. Give yourself the same kind of compassion that you would give to other people, whether it's like I said, your friends, your family, your children. Like, I can't imagine because as you know, I'm a mom, and I can't imagine judging my children on the same level that I judge myself.
Yeah, that's actually a good way to look at that. And I want to mention that to everybody. Charise actually has 3 children. She's a mom of 3, and she's a wonderful husband, and she's here in Canada, the same as I am. And I love that you say that, because, we tend to have so much forgiveness for others. Like, imagine, okay, let's just pretend, we're going to pretend that we open up a journal and we read from, I don't know, 6 months ago that we wrote in, oh my gosh, what a horrible day. I can't believe let's take kids. I can't believe I got so upset with my child over this. I feel like a horrible mom, and I just want to stay in bed and cry. I don't know. I'm just kind of doing that one. But a lot of moms go through a lot of mom guilt and things like that. Like, they go like, if I was such a great mom, how could I do this? So there's a lot of blame, and I can't believe. How could we approach that with a proofreading mindset to spin that positively? How could we change that around?
Basically, I just think it's looking at it from somebody else's perspective. Like, if you're just going to keep looking at your mistakes from the same point of view, you're going to keep looking at it and coming to the same conclusion. I can't believe I did that. Why did I do that? When you start to look at it as though somebody else were to have done that, like some other mom was horrible and yelled at their children or whatever this person was upset about, if they look at it from somebody else's point of view, they're going to be able to see it. So you have to be able to step back, and whether you need help stepping back from that to see it in a different light, or whether you learn how to do that on your own, it just is really, really helpful to be able to see it as though somebody else had made that mistake, because then you can look at it and say, oh my gosh, it's not that horrible. You know what? I did yell at my kids, or I did freak out because something happened, but that doesn't make me a horrible mother. It makes me a human being, and I reacted in a way that, yes, maybe I'm not proud of, but I understand. And now that I understand it, I can avoid doing that, and I can understand where I was coming from. It really goes back to the compassion piece.
Yes, the compassion piece. And you know, sometimes I know when I was little, I remember my mom yelling at my sister once, and I'm younger than my sister, so I was young. I didn't have that maturity or experience in life to understand all these different ways, that there's different ways of looking at things. And I remember once my mom yelled at my sister, but I got mad at my mom because I was like, that was so awful that you yelled her that way. But when I'm older now, I was like, she yelled at her because I think she ran out into the street or something to go after a toy. And my mother was terrified, like, like, oh my God, my child could get killed. So when she was like scared, and so she's only yelling, and I only felt like this negative thing of fear, but I didn't know what that was yet. So there's so many perspectives. Like I remember that. I remember yelling at my mom going, you can't talk to her like that.
It's so cute when kids do that. Like, I think all kids are really protective of their siblings, and I'm thinking of times when maybe my kids have done that, or I have done that, or even with, I've got a brother and a sister, and I can remember hearing a story about how I saved my brother's life. He was going to toboggan into traffic, and I pulled him off the sled, and I literally saved him from being smushed by a car, and he turned around and said, you are so mean. And it's like, well, no, like, because I was only 5, so he was a couple years younger. So he was like 3, and he didn't see that perspective of the car on the street. He just saw I pulled him off the sled. So it's funny because, it's when you're in that situation, you can't see everything.
I love that. It's exactly what I just wrote down. You didn't see. So even ourselves, we're in the middle of going, oh my God, I did that, such a stupid thing. But you're like, if you really were to take that step back, proofread the perspective, you would be like, but I didn't see all of this going on or that going on. And it makes such a difference.
I always think of perspective as being like a tree in some ways. You can see different things depending on where you are in the tree. If you're higher up in the branches, you can see way more than when you're right stuck in the thick of that tree. So, it's about climb that tree.
Oh, that was awesome. It's about climbing. Oh my God, I love that. Hold on. I'm writing that down. It is about climbing. It is. And you know what, as we climb, if you climb the vibrational scale, climb the compassion scale.
Oh, I love that. I love the vibrational scale.
Okay. Oh my gosh. I can visualize like a little diagram now with a tree, and we can put the scale on the tree trunk. Oh, that would be fun. Okay. We're doing that. Okay. There you go. I think also too, if we're stuck in a perspective that isn't serving us, we just like this, we can't be creative because we have so many I can't, I stopping, or I won't, I'm afraid. Let's just talk about that fear for a minute. And if we stay in a fear perspective, what is a common, I want to say journal entry, but yeah, like what is a common statement that somebody at the end of the day might write that is fear-based? That's really popular, because let's tackle that for a second.
Let me think.
Oh, what about like, I'm not good and I can't go for that job, or I can't go for that position. Those
are so common, and I think it's so easy to get stuck in that trap because it's almost like a web. And the more you say these things to yourself, the more you're going to say more of these things, and you're just going to spin yourself into this horrible situation where you're not going to feel like you can get out. So like you said, like I can't go for this new job. So you're going to be trapping yourself. You're going to feel like you're trapping yourself into these horrible positions, whether it's a job that you hate or a relationship that needs to be ending, or maybe a living situation that you should be moving away from to a safer place. Like there's so many things that this negative self-talk can actually impact in your life, and you don't even realize it when you're stuck in the middle of it.
You know what? Oh, okay. We still have 3 minutes, but I am going to let everybody know that I'm going to ask Charise to share one of the biggest fear stories, because you do write about it, that you went through, and how it literally was like decades of fear. Because I think the most important thing, and I love that you use the web analogy. I wrote that down because movement, fear paralyzes us. It can paralyze us. And why it is because we've said it so many times. We've spun that web. There's so many repeating layers to it, and we can't move. And so with that fear piece, just so everybody knows too, not only we're going to get to hear a really cool story about Charise and how she really demonstrates what fear can do and how to move out of it and how you move out of it in steps, not just like all at once, but we also are going to do the turnarounds to these and let people know, like, if you are suddenly recognizing that, wow, I have a lot of fear. If you were to look back in your journal, like, Charise, do you keep a journal? You write a lot, so is it a journal?
Yes, I have kept a journal in the past, and sometimes I still do. They tend to be scattered around on pieces of paper because I have children, so they like to take my. But I do like to write things down. I hope that it clarifies the issues that I'm going through.
Ah, so. Yes. And do you find that you first write the negative, or do you write it as in what you'd like to happen?
Oh, I tend to write the negative.
You spill it. Yes, I actually love that. That's a really neat thing too. I mean, mine is probably, yes, that's, everybody's unique and everybody has their own, their starting point. Like in the beginning of the show, I say reasons to feel better. We all start at a different place.
Yes, we do.
And I find that I actually think it's comical. Well, for me, I think it's comical because you actually say things that I make faces like, oh, she didn't say that. Like, but it's good because do you think that we can shock ourselves into, like, when we proofread our perspective, we can shock ourselves out of something?
I like that. I like that a lot, actually, that theory of shocking yourself. I think it's a good idea, and I do think that it happens.
You know what's neat? Okay, first of all, of course, thought about, getting the paddles on the heart when you're having a heart attack and they shock you. But really, it's also, you do the flip side for me. So sometimes I'm so positive going, there just must be a way. But if somebody were to say to me literally the opposite, like, well, you may totally fail and then you never get it. And I'm like so shocked because I don't believe that. I'm like, no. And then I start defending it, which is like, and then you see there all the reasons why you would. But, well, you know what? I do want to, we're going to speak away commercials. When we come back, I think this is so much, everybody needs to hear, because when we hear of other people's, not just struggles, but where they got stuck and how they got out, and it also is proof, not proofreading, but proof that you can get out and gives you hope. So come on back after the commercials. We are here with Charise Morris.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM. Being a radio host on IOM-FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
Hi, this is David Strickle. I'm excited to share my brand new show, The Stream of David Live, right here on OMTimes Radio. Each week I'll have exciting guests and I'll channel the eternal wisdom of the stream, a group of non-physical entities whose teachings have transformed lives all over the world. So join us for an uplifting hour each Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern. That's The Stream of David Live right here on OMTimes Radio.
Are you considering starting your own podcast? Do you have a book or other content you'd like to share with a worldwide audience? Give your book a voice. Hello, I'm Lisa Berry, host of Light on Living here on OMTimes Radio. Myself and Tomas Garza, host of Decide to Transform, help people like you produce your very own radio show. At Podcast Prosperity, we help you create your show and recirculate your content for multimedia impact. Through creation and launch, we give you the support and mentorship you need and help you create the influence, income, and impact that you desire. Contact us at lightonliving.com, Podcast Prosperity.
A social distancing tip.
Putting distance between yourself and others is critical to slowing the spread of coronavirus. So here are ways to stay in contact without the physical contact part. Call, send a text, set up a video conference, post on social media, dedicate a song on the radio. If you have symptoms of fever, dry cough, and shortness of breath, call your healthcare provider before going to their office. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part, because we're all #alone together. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Welcome back, everyone. Again, you're listening to Light on Living, and I'm here with you, Lisa Berry, and I have Charise Morris with us. And why I've chosen Charise is because she is one of the most fabulous editors of both writing and thoughts and perspectives. So we're here to proofread your perspective. And Charise, I was just thinking on the commercial, I think about journal entries. I mean, I'm not a big journaler just because, a couple things. If I'm going to write down some things that, if it's going to be negative, I don't want anybody else. I always have this fear somebody's going to read it, so I would never write it down. But I feel like we look for evidence to support our own belief, whether it's negative or positive. And so I think that's why I was really hot on this topic about having a positive, to proofread that perspective and have it positive, because if I'm looking for evidence, I mean, I'm going to really believe what I've written. So do you think when it comes to evidence that we write something down and then we start looking for others to support it and believe it?
Sometimes that is very true. I mean, it can be really hard to look outside your own point of view. So yeah, I think absolutely you're going to be looking for things to support your belief, whether or not it's even a legitimate belief. Like if you're, we were kind of talking about how, you might be stuck in a bad situation. So if you've been telling yourself for a very long time, like, this is what I deserve, or I can't, or I won't, or never, all these horrible things, when you put them, these words, when you put them with a negative belief system, when you've been telling yourself these things for so long, you can just basically find things to support your point of view, no matter what. It could be something that is even positive that somebody says, and you can put a negative spin on it and use it to support your belief. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Like when people say, see, I knew it, or I told you, and you're like, what? That dude didn't even say that.
I've done that. Like, I've even had, my beautiful, loving husband, he is, because we all have our own, moods, like nobody's perfect or whatever, or, and I might have said something to him in the past about, I think that I should stay in this situation. And he'll say something, and I'll say, see, you agree with me. And he's like, that is not at all what I was doing. I mean, even though, like, I'm guilty of it, and, we're all guilty, I think, of trying to support our own belief systems. And I think a lot of the time it could be just even a fear base, like a justification, because you're afraid to make a move to make a change.
Yes. Well, change. That's the thing. So check this out. So you and I both are authors. I know that when I do my first draft, I'm fully expecting it to be edited, to be like literally chopped up and pulled around and have better words and everything. And as long as it keeps the essence. But it's so funny, the changing of it, even when it first comes back. Now I really look forward to it, because I'm not attached to that outcome. But in the beginning, it was really hard, because you go, what? What do you mean I'm not, so changing your story, changing what you've said is so hard.
Yes, and it's at first, you're right, when you first go into that process the first time, it's almost insulting. How dare you? How dare you change my own thoughts about my own life? But, when you get used to the process of editing, whether it's, going back to this whole thing, editing your life, editing your journals, your mind frame, when you start to be more flexible with it, it makes your life better. It can make your writing better.
Yes.
You have to be open.
Writing, we're talking about both things. Being more flexible, it's your life. Like maybe you become a little bit more flexible in your life so that you can shift from I can't, or I hate myself, or all these things. And so just so the listeners can hear a little bit about being stuck or going back. Did you were stuck in a situation where you just literally thought this was your life, and then you had to figure out how to wiggle out of it or jump out of it, or one of the two. So can you just share a little bit about that, and how did you proofread your perspective to allow you to have some movement?
It's tricky. Okay, so like everybody, I have made my share of mistakes, and I have made my choices in the past that at the time, these were good choices. And I think you're kind of looking for my career story.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So with my career at the time, it was, as you know, I called it like winning the lottery. It was great. It was this amazing opportunity. It was, it was this job, this dream job even. In fairness, it has always been a terrible job, but it was just a good opportunity. And I thought when I took the job, I'm going to be here for a couple of years. I will just figure out my life. I'll go back to school. I'll get, direction, and then I'll leave this horrible place behind forever. Except it didn't work like that, as you know. I got stuck. I got stuck in this place for, I started there in 2000, actually, and I just left this year. That's 20 years, basically 20 years of my life that I gave to this place, and I hated almost every minute of it. And it was probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do, is to walk away from that, because it was just the routine of it. Something that I was comfortable doing. Yes, I hated it, but I knew what to expect every time I went into work. I knew the types of people I was working with, so I knew kind of what to avoid and what to expect from the people and the drama that goes on in some of the workplaces, like in obviously in my workplace at the time. The drama was probably one of the biggest problems with that working environment. It was just completely toxic. But I knew, and because it was one of those, the devil you know versus the one that you don't. So I think with all the stuff that I had going on in my life, it was just easier to stay. And so when I finally made the choice to leave, I kept going to other people. What do you think? What do you think I should do? Even though deep inside I knew it was time to leave. It was time to leave years ago. I should have done it way sooner than I did. But sometimes I think for me, I was looking to the wrong people. So, for example, let's say I would ask my parents. And now they're not the wrong people, but in this case, they're very old-fashioned. So for me to say, I'm going to walk away from this job that I've had for 20 years, that's just not something that you do. And it's not something that I took lightly when I made that choice. Let's put that out there. But to go to the wrong people and have them say something like, you have to stay. You have to stay. So it just kept feeding into my own insecurities about why I needed to stay, whether I wasn't good enough to get a different job. This is what people expected of me. This is what I've been doing my entire adult life. This is where I deserve to be. This is where I should stay. So when I was going to these outside sources and asking them, well, what do you think? And they're basically telling me things that I felt inside. So I just kept believing them. So I had to take a very big step back. I had to stop asking people. And I'm not saying that asking people is the wrong thing to do, but I had to stop asking the wrong people for advice because they just kept giving me the wrong answer.
Yeah, they're giving their answer based on their perspective.
Yeah, and like I said, like they love me and they meant well, but that wasn't the right answer. And when giving advice to somebody, you can't be giving advice based on what you would do. You have to look at what is best for the person you're trying to help.
Yeah.
So for myself, even just going back to, what should I do instead of asking everybody, what do you think I should do? I just start taking responsibility for my own actions and really examining my own life. How do I feel? How do I feel every day that I have to go into this job that's life-sucking and terrible and painful? How do I feel at the end of a shift when I've spent all these hours around people who are completely toxic? So, sorry. Apparently I have a little bit of a frog in my throat.
You know what's really, I want to say this as that it's almost like we can ask, like what you said, stop asking, just for a minute, stop asking other people for advice. But what advice would your best happy self give versus what advice has your lower self-love person been giving? It's like there's an identity. You have to identify which personality, which life person in the future of yourself do you want to ask? And hear from.
Who, like within myself?
Yeah, it's like we all have to say, okay, you know what? I've been asking myself, the part of me who does not feel worthy, who does not have self, who does not believe in this, who is full of blame and not forgiveness. And I've been listening to them. I have to step back and change my perspective and be asking from the person in myself who if I was my happiest and best self and full of forgiveness and compassion, what advice would that me give me?
Oh, those two people are very different people. So these versions of myself, they give completely different advice. And, okay, so my higher self, my lovely, loving personal self, would say, you don't deserve to be stuck in this situation. You absolutely deserve to be in a career where you're going to be appreciated, you're going to be helping, you're going to be valued. You're not going to be feeling, tired and drained and sore every single day. You're not going to dread getting up for work in the morning because of this horrible environment, versus the other side of myself, which is like, you know what? Who do you think you are? Thinking you're better than this. I mean, you're better than these people. You've been here for 20 years. This is you. This is what you deserve. This is where you should stay. And they're totally different personalities, I suppose.
Yes.
Because one is obviously much more positive. And I mean, I'm not saying that the job itself, it just wasn't right for me. I'm not saying it's not right for somebody. Or, that I'm better than those people who work at that place. It makes them sound terrible. But for me, it was time to leave. And you're right in that I was giving myself conflicting advice. I had to pick a side.
Yes. Oh, conflicting advice. So we're going to go into some steps here, but I like this. Conflicting advice, that sounds like to me when I'm going to my world about incongruent core values, right?
That is fancy.
Yes. And that's literally what's going on. You've got everybody, we all do. It's the devil and the angel, right, on those little shoulders. And they're saying, you do deserve better than the others. Wait a second. Why do you think you're better than those people? And actually what's coming up for me when I hear you say that, by the way, when you're saying, even now you went, oh, I don't want to call them those people. You have such equality. And so when we do judge and we hear ourselves judging others, then we're judging ourselves going, oh my God, I just judged that other person. I'm a horrible person. So
that's just it. I felt, oh no, that's so judgmental of me to say. But that's not how I meant it. But thank you for picking up on that.
Yeah, but you proofread it, and I hope that everybody can hear that. You proofread it and went, well, wait a second, it's just not right for me. And that is the way to proofread. That's what we're asking people. If you go back through your journal or those statements, or you hear yourself say something, it's not to retract it and lie and say the opposite. It's
no, not at all. It's not just a lying spin on it. I just thought of ice cream for some reason. It's like you're trying to eat this rotten old treat. Put some sprinkles on it. No, it's not about just dressing up a mistruth. It's about changing your perspective and seeing it for actually what it is. Because I think a lot of the times when we look at things, we're not seeing it as the truth that it is. There's a saying. I think there's three sides to the truth. There's his, hers, and the actual truth, or something like that.
Yes.
And I think that when we look at things just from our own perspective, which is obviously what we have to do, you're only going to see it from the one way. But that's where you need to help. You need help being shifted to be able to see it in a different light.
What was I'm putting you on the spot. How did you proofread your journal entries, so to speak, so that you could make the decision that you made and the choice to move in a different direction?
It was a very long process for me, just based on my personality. I tend to be very loyal. And so when I went into the career, yes, I went in thinking it's only going to be temporary. But then I kind of committed. I shifted and I committed to doing it for life, as the saying goes. I was going to do that as my career. For me, I think there are a lot of things that had to happen. And one of them was the company downsized. And it downsized a lot. And over the years, they've been downsizing slowly, as a lot of companies have been. And it just, for me, it was a wake-up call, as in, I don't need to be loyal to this company because they're not loyal to me. They're not loyal to my community. They've been around for 100 years, and they can just walk away. And companies tend to do that. They just want to make money, and a lot of them are not very responsible when they choose to do their downsizing. So it was kind of like, you know what, I don't need to be loyal to them because they've already thrown me out like I'm a piece of trash. And yes, I had the opportunity to stay, so this was a choice for me to either stay or to go. And I had to look at it from a different point of my perspective. So I kind of shifted back into what did I want when I was a child? You know, would the child Charise have wanted to be this miserable? Like, is this what I pictured for myself when I was a child? No. Like, and then again, I would look at my children and say, would I want this for my children? And my children want me to be happy. So maybe I looked at myself from my children's perspective. What would my children have wanted for me? And I know they don't want me to be miserable. So I think that's how I kind of shifted. I looked at myself from a children's perspective.
Right, because so honest. And I like that. You're like, can you imagine, like, what, when you're old, when you're growing up, what do you want to be? I want to be miserable. Yeah, that's just not happening.
No, I don't know anybody who once said that. I mean, like, my kids all the time, like, I ask my children, what do you want to be when you grow up? Because I want to help steer them in that direction and give them that guidance, you know, just to kind of pick their brains even. And no, not one of them has said, Mom, I wish I was miserable.
Yes. Actually, you know what's really funny? I can literally so positively spin something that is negative. I know that I've heard guys, you know, they're in their, let's say, early 20s, and they go, God, I can't wait to become an old crotchety man. And but you know what I hear? You feel that you just don't get to say what is on your mind, and you're tired of playing nice. So really, they're just saying, I can't wait to be more authentic. I can't wait to be real and honest. So that's what I actually hear. This. I go, oh, yeah, great. Well, I can't wait either, because that just means I'll probably laugh at you and giggle because you're saying what you really think. So
I like that. I like the person. I've never thought of that, actually.
It's like when we're little, like I love that you said that, and the thing I loved, and we'll go back into this after the break, but you did a perspective shift on a core value, which was loyalty, and you were thinking, okay, is this a two-way street here? I committed loyalty. Am I receiving that back? Okay, wait, it's not. So now there's that, the proofreading there was, I've got to go. So if anybody has a journal entry that is not serving them, let's find that core value. That why was this important to me that I'm upset? Why am I upset? Like you talk to a little kid. So I think, Charise, when we get back from the commercial break, we are going to go into that child mind, like, and see what was the original mindset of why we wrote it, and find out why we're upset and throwing a temper tantrum. All right, guys, welcome back to Light on Living after the commercial break.
The best of holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
As I'm sure you know, it is time to celebrate self-discovery and personal growth. But you know, your efforts have to be consistent in order to stay balanced and to overcome depression and fears. So, what new books are available? How do you stay centered? Elizabeth Joyce and her guests will help you find out. That's Elizabeth Joyce on Let's Find Out, Mondays at 6 p.m. on OMTimes Radio.
So I'm a cat, and I just moved in with this new human, and she's got this little toy she's always playing with, all day long. Tap, 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 bloop, bloop. She can't put it down. There it is. Oh, and get this. She even talks to it. Last week she asked it for Chinese, and guess what? Egg rolls showed up. Like magic. Humans have cool toys.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
Hi, guys. Welcome back. Oh, You know what? I have to say this, everybody, I'm talking to Charise Morris here, and so many things are flooding my mind about shifting and proofreading the perspective. And we started talking about, looking at it from a child's perspective, or, like looking in the forward future. And number one thing that I think that children, more than anything, would only have a fear or negative entry kind of thing about would be about like failing, not being good enough, but like not succeeding. Like they take a toy and they can't figure it out, or they go to play a game and they're not as good as somebody else. Like that failing concept would kind of come up.
Yeah.
And I have to ask this, I'm totally tossing into this. So a lot of adults, I know, especially the women listening right here, right now, are feeling like I'm just tuning into all this energy that people listening right now is so strong. They're failing their health regime. They're not just weight loss, but like getting healthier. I failed. I was supposed to get 2 liters of water in today, and I only got 3 cups. I was supposed to go for an hour walk, and I didn't, let alone 10 minutes. So their entries, as we're entering a journal about what we were supposed to do and didn't. That's where I would really love to hear your advice on proofreading that. And it's about, should we be journaling what we didn't do, or should we be journaling in a la land of like, okay, yay, I got 2 cups of water in, and not acknowledging what we didn't. How do we write these things and have a conversation in our mind that keeps us both goal oriented but positive?
That's tricky. It's tricky because I think personally, I really believe that we should acknowledge our failures, not in the sense of we don't need to stew in them. We don't need to just keep reliving them and being ashamed and feel guilty about it. But just like, what? I had this goal. Here was my goal. I can write about it, and I can say, I was disappointed. I was kind of disappointed in myself for not taking that step, or for maybe a person has been taking many steps, and then they just kind of fell off the wagon. And I think it's important to acknowledge even getting to the point where you want to make those changes, because that's important. So it didn't happen, but you've gotten to the point where you said, I want to, I am going to. And this is, I think, where, okay, it's defeating because you haven't made that step, or you haven't made the changes, but you know that you need to. So acknowledging that you've made maybe the mistake about it, and journaling about the negative side of it, I think has a function as well, maybe to even push you to make the change that you want to make.
I love that. I actually wrote that down. Acknowledge the wanting of an improvement, because you're saying like, yeah, there's like, for me, I use water because I don't struggle as much, but I do struggle a little bit with water, and I really aim for that 1 to 1.5 liters. I know that doesn't sound like much, but I eat a lot of watery foods. But I want to acknowledge, like, it's not just I want to drink water because I should. It's that why. Why do I want to drink the water? Well, I want to drink the water because if I'm dehydrated, my brain hurts. Like I get a headache, or I want to drink the water because I want my skin to be cleaner. So do you think it's helpful if, I love that, acknowledging the wanting of an improvement, and then should we go deeper on our why reason, like the relationship with the why?
I like to go deeper. I like to examine everything. I'm a bit of an overthinker. Maybe that's the editing side of me, but yes. I do like to understand, or try to understand, when I want to make a change. Why do I want to make a change? So, you mentioned wanting to drink water, or, maybe somebody doesn't want to eat as much junk food. I struggled with changing my diet for years. I knew I had to make changes. This isn't healthy for me to eat nothing but pizza. It was delicious, though, but it wasn't healthy, and I knew eventually it was going to catch up with me. So for me, understanding why I needed to change my diet was a huge piece in me actually making that change, because at the time I didn't realize that I had issues with digesting my like gluten and wheat. I didn't know. I was just sick all the time. So once I figured that out, well, hey, you know what? I understood. I need to change. I shouldn't be eating these pizzas all the time because it's making me sick. So it's not always going to be something, it's, a life or death issue, like it's going to make me sick, or, it could just be something like it's going to make me feel better, or like you said, it's going to make me have clearer skin if I drink more water. So I think that if you understand and define maybe a reason why, it will help you make the effort to do the changes that you're wanting to make. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes. I think our perception can only shift if we go a little deeper. Like we can't just, our perception, proofreading. We want to proofread that perception because we're going, okay, am I proofreading at the point of my perception is I'm mad at myself for not doing it, or is my perception the point of it will help me, or is the thing is I'm afraid of dying? Who knows? Like if you're sick all the time or your immune system's failing. Yeah. So what perspective are we coming from, and to proofread to identify where are we starting to, where are we looking? Like where on the tree? Where in the tree are we? I love that.
Hang on. No, but it's really true, because I think a lot of times, like people get comfortable. I was comfortable in that horrible job that I really struggled to leave that because I was comfortable. It's like it's almost like a pros and cons list. Like what is the reason for staying? What are the reasons for going? Why do I need to make these changes? Because if you don't define them, you're not going to. And because it's easier. People, I think bodies, like human being bodies, are just lazy. And I mean in a very loving way, but we like routine. We like things that are consistent. We like to know what's expected. A lot of people do not like change, and it's hard to make changes, whether it's something massive or something small. It can be really, really challenging to make those changes, especially if you don't have a defined reason for it. If it's just something like, I saw it on TV, like you're supposed to drink all this water, it's something I read, but you don't understand the reasons behind it, you're probably not going to make that effort, because you're going to say, you know what, I drank a liter of water this morning, and all I've done is spent an hour tied to the bathroom, because that's what happens. You drink all that water.
You're making me think of like when you said our bodies are lazy, which is so interesting, because it's our spirit that moves us. It is our passion and drive, or like whether it's commitment driven, like, okay, I've got kids, I've got cats I got to run after, like that moves my body really fast. Like, where are the cats? I need help them. But I thought of automation, how we automate, like you said, routine, and we get comfortable. What happens is we have an automatic mode that we're like, yep, get up, go do that routine. And creativity and passion isn't sparked within automation. Efficiency is, right? But we can be efficient in like our efficiency, how do I want to say this? Like we can become negatively efficient. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think I've been guilty of that, especially with that job, because I'd be so tired all the time. And it was just easier to continue doing the routine that I was aware of. Go to bed, struggle to get up. I could drive to work with my eyes closed, but don't ever do that because it's very dangerous. And not that I ever did, but I could have, because I had the routine. I would leave my house at the same time every day, so I would hit the green light, because I knew it that well. I've been doing it for so long that I could just time it for the lights, and it was so much easier. It's just the routine of things, and you're right. It can negatively impact you, but routine can also be positive if you just have to tweak it.
Yeah, I like the automation. Actually, I was laughing thinking about how you are so powerful that you synced with city planning, the traffic lights. So it expands beyond our fields, and we just have a sense of things. I think that is the thing. I use random story. I used to pet sit. I used to walk dogs while I was studying for my nutrition certificate, and because I was studying, my mind was elsewhere. I feel really guilty about it, by the way, but I'm rewriting that story. And I used to walk the dog, like I'll go to the dogs, but I would be memorizing or learning while walking them, but I wasn't present with the sweet little animals. And I would only walk the same route because I knew it and I felt safer. But like I just love pleasing animals. I love when animals are happy. So now I'm like, gosh, I missed out on so many of the things that we could have gone, down this new road or sniffed that new trail or, and I really feel like if somebody was to get something even out of like, what can happen? I'll ask you, when we decide, hey, I want some change, I'm going to proofread my perspective. Can you just kind of summarize, like, what does somebody's life look like right now that would benefit from proofreading? How would they benefit from proofreading their perspective, and how do they start?
How do they start? These are very in-depth. Okay, so I mean, I can kind of use myself, because I had to read my own life basically to make the changes that I needed to make. And I mean, I think before I did all of my own proofreading, I was really unhappy and I felt trapped. And it didn't matter whatever I was trying to do, it just wouldn't stick. Like I read all the positivity books and I wanted to be positive, and I would try. When you asked me about writing journals from a positive perspective, like I would try that. It didn't work for me because I felt like a fraud. Because here I was trying to be super positive and trying to be grateful for the things that I had that I was really grateful for. Like I love my kids, and they're like the best part of my life. So I 100% like they're, love them to pieces. It's not their job to make me happy. I think that putting that on children or a loved one, a spouse, an animal, a pet, putting that on them, it's a lot of responsibility to put on something so small, and it's unfair. So for me, I think that, okay, where is it going with this? What was your original question?
Oh, I asked you 3. I wasn't a very helpful host there. Oh my gosh, I love them so much. I like where you were, though, because we're like, how does one identify when they are needing to proofread? And we came up with identify that you're unhappy or stuck. Yes. So once we get there, okay, then, and you said, I love that you said this, and you've maybe tried some things, but you're like, nothing's sticking here. Like,
no, because, and another thing we talked about was the core values, like re-examining core values or old belief systems maybe that necessarily don't serve you anymore. And some of them you may not need to chuck them away, like loyalty. When we were talking about how I was loyal to a company that wasn't loyal to the community or its workers, loyalty is still a very big, important piece of who I am, but it's about refocusing on who deserves that loyalty. So it may be just examining, okay, so we've identified that somebody's unhappy, and now we need to identify things on how we can make them feel happier. And you can do that by looking through their past. And that's where I think the journaling piece comes in, like edit your journals, because you can kind of see patterns from old behaviors, and you can say, oh, well, there's one that needs to be tweaked a little bit, and we need to edit that, and, just make small changes. Because if you don't address your own core belief systems, no matter what you do, I really don't think it's going to stick. Like reading all of the positivity books, they're not going to work for you, because deep down inside, you have this core belief that's in it's not in agreement with what you're trying to learn. So you have to address the core belief system, I think.
Yes. You're actually making me think about love languages, where I'm always imagining somebody just really, really wants to hear the other person say that they love them, but yet the other person isn't saying it, but they're buying them all these gifts because they are gift givers as opposed to word speakers. And it's ourselves, like if we want to change and we keep reading up how to make the change, but we don't know why we have not yet made the change. This is where that perspective needs to shift. And I love that about journaling. It's right there. The answers are literally in code right in front of us. And I love that you say examine, like we are examining them, and it's not to examine to find your faults and all your wrongs. It's to read that story to find out, okay, what was my story? Because I need to write it in a different perspective.
Exactly. Because if you don't, honestly, I think if you don't do the examining, you're not going to be able to change. And there's another saying. I love sayings today, apparently. The one about doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Yes. It's kind of like that. Like you need to know where you've been in order to kind of decide and have a hand in where you're going.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I'm actually going to take this opportunity to say right now, if you guys are listening, you're like, I did keep a journal. My gosh, like what did I write? What am I doing? Because I'm having this reoccurring thing show up in my life. I invite you to do 2 things. First of all, pick up that journal and just read it yourself. Go read some entries over and see if you can pick up a pattern. If you need some help, here's my invitation, is to reach out to Charise, actually. Now, Charise, I know you're going to be launching a course on the Academy of, oh my gosh, I'm going to say it wrong. The Academy of Universal Self-Mastery. We're not there yet, but we will be, so they can find you there. However, in the meantime, I think, you know what, Charise has just been so helpful to me. And you can reach out to Charise at Say Hello to Charise. And Charise is with an S. So it's Charise, like rise, because you're going to rise above everything. So, yay! So say hello to Charise at hotmail.com, or find her on Facebook and everything. But you know what? If you would like some help, like I want to figure out how I can find this. I want to examine my journals, some things, and do some proofreading on my perspective. I'm going to make that invitation. Anywhere else they can reach you, or that you would give them suggestions on how to start?
No, that's the best way to reach me is the Hotmail one, or like I said, Facebook. I think that was a really good idea, is just to go through, if you have your own old journals, to go through and try to examine and see if you can find a pattern. And then you can start from there just by trying to identify a pattern. And even if not, maybe you don't have a journal, maybe you could start to keep one. You can go through your old experiences that you have a lot of maybe guilt over, and you can kind of write about them and see what pops up from writing about it currently. Because sometimes when you write about something as it's happening, you have a different perspective or a shift even a couple years down the road or a couple months down the road, or, your own ideas can change, and you can kind of see things from a different point of view as time has passed.
I love that. And that's what we're here. That's what we're here to help everybody do, to give them reasons to feel better and to change their perspective. Let's climb the tree, everybody. So if you haven't started yet, just start writing them out, see what shows up. But you know what? Perspective shift is so important. And I want to thank you, Charise, for sharing this time with me. It always flies. And I'm just so happy that you are here to help people edit their lives and to proofread their perspectives.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been fun.
Yay, see? Fun. All right, everybody, I hope you have a beautiful week. We'll see you next Monday on Light on Living. Okay, bye, everyone.